Hi everyone, Ni hao, bonjour to the online world. And perhaps today we are going to discuss and talk about the measures which needs deployment and the enactment has to be real in terms of forget about achieving the SCD 2030 goals. The way the climate is working around on a global basis, whether it's the Arctic or we talk about the climate around the equator or the other parts of the world, the dictum is set in terms of what has happened or the catastrophes which are happening simultaneously at a global level. That being said, I'll put myself on mute. I have some data sets with me which I wish to discuss. We have been working on the Impala network on a scale where a lot of discussion is being discussed and put online for the other folks to create the white economy. So, white economy is all to create the economics with which the planet, which is being inhabited, moved forward for at least let's uh, I was just going through the realistic data set right now, and according to the data set, um, the timeline is crunching because the computing power or the number of folks who came online and the data which was shared and the training which has been done on various protocol is not in synchronicity, and because there is so much of disconnect between the stakeholders, and particularly from the standpoint view of blockchain, urgent measures need to be deployed in the given scheme of things. There's a lot of discussion, but the discussion is not helping us out. The deployment of technology is real. There's so much tech developed globally, whether you talk about Ireland. I mean, there are so many innovations which has been filed before the World Intellectual Property Organization, and that needs urgent deployment, irrespective of the fact they have filed a patent in India or not. It doesn't matter because the technical understanding of how tech has to be deployed has to be done in association with the folks who have developed whatever they have developed in whatever capacity. So I'll put myself on mute right now. We'll go through the data sets and see what can be done in the given scheme of things. Okay, so we are going to discuss full spectrum of the production in terms of the renewable energy which can be utilized to not only the achievement of 2030 goals. What I feel is the deployment has to be next 90 to 120 days so that something can be negated. At the same point of time, a lot of coding is being done. So perhaps I'll just walk you through first. Hmm, I want to walk you through the Okay, so I'm going to walk you through the tagging part first of all, because I believe right tagging of the codes can make a lot of difference. And to create the white economy, we need to understand the tagging part. So let's start with the classification. We are getting into the H band classification. So H band is not particularly the spectrum band I'm talking about. H band is supposed to be a code word. So we have H null ein, the letter M 8 slash 186. That is basically for regeneration by electrochemical means by electrolytic decomposition of the solution or the formed water product. Right now, a lot of water is being not renewed the way it has to be, and that kind of sensitization is not present with the citizens of the state. I'm not even talking about the countries. What the need of the hour is, let's take the data set of India. Apart from China, India comes with the biggest data set of the population. And from not from today, even if you go back to the Indira Gandhi's era, there were protocols followed just to control the population level. But with the augment of the increase in number of people, like rather, I would rather say there is no head, there is no wind. This term headwind doesn't even suffice the purpose the way the things are working out, because nature is the biggest blockchain and it has given its verdict. Till now we don't agree on it, and we are trying to create a new mess by uh, creating infra at places where the real infra itself is not up to the mark. um, Let me just write it down. So I talked about one of the classifications. The next classification is C, the letter C for cognizance. C25B, B for band, 1 slash null null. So null null is basically 00, and it talks about electrolytic production of inorganic compounds or nonmetals. Then we have for electrolysis of water, so hydrogen or oxygen by electrolysis of water. So water basic component of the chemical reaction is H2O. Um, this is basically okay. So this is basically C25B1 slash null 4, and then we have C25B11 slash 03, electrodes manufactured thereof not otherwise provided for, characterized by contouring, perforated. Then we have when we understand ingress and egress, particularly it's a mechanical term, but the understanding is the spacing elements which are characterized by shape. So shape, the other word is contouring. I like to use contouring because I've been utilizing it in the framework for almost 2 decades now. So it's C25B13 slash 002. Then we have for regulation, process control and regulation is C25B15 slash 02. Um, so the other one for the wind motors for special use is F not 3D9 slash 007. So other one is why not 2E70/30 system combining energy storage with energy generation of non-fossil origin. So for mitigation of the climate change, we have why not 2P80/20, which is climate change mitigation technologies for sector-wide application using renewable energy. Perhaps I'll just look into this and we'll just wind up this discussion in a while now. So basically, this is relating to an energy park which has renewable energy production and materials resource extraction. So there is agribusiness network for renewable nutrient regimes and energy feedstock production. At the other end, we have full spectrum industrial park for sustainable material resource production and zero emission manufacturing. Okay, let's look into this. So we'll talk about, and I'll go through the roadmap here. So what needs to be done is to develop small silos of the systems around an reactor electrolyzer kind of a system where the reactor is kind of a black box which has a pressure mechanism, heated mechanism, and that conditions a feedstock. I remember doing one of the cases way back. So the inventors were Malaysian. The company was based out in UK. I'm talking way back, maybe 2008, 2009. And perhaps in that particular case, the feedstock which was produced, it was feeded back. And it's very important from the standpoint view when any kind of stock in the sense which is for consumption, which can be at the any part of the food chain, the powder form of a stock feed, or say for example there's coconut water. So I'll take very simple example here. There's coconut water. If the coconut uh, with the coconut has to be transferred, carrying the water as a carrier, the weight would be more. But if it's converted into the powder form and then packed and sent for consumption, making sure that the nutrients and everything is secured, a lot can be shipped. um, what is important here is, and this discussion has been ongoing for the longest time, I think, as part of few of these conferences, and obviously I was speaker in some of those, and others I was a listener. And the best of the people in India who have been a bridging gap between countries, who are the peacemakers of the world in many aspects, they have talked about um, to have a system in place whereby whatever is being produced anywhere in India, and in India, if anything is produced at that point itself, you need to have technology deployed so that it can be, the traveling time is less. That is point number one. And whatever is, like, say, for example, tomatoes. Tomatoes also goes through cycles, or any of the fruits and the vegetables. It has a cycle. So, by utilizing technology, if everything is taken into cognizance, nobody is saying that, the farmer work would be less. Farmers would be upgraded. And that is where human capacity building becomes much more important right now. So, I would be talking about this and analyzing this application and putting it into a prospect of submission. However, what is important right now here is, if I have to understand carbon negative in the best possible way, it would be to have human sensitization for everyone. I mean, that is so important. That is not even, pointers. I'll take every pointer as null. That is zero, because so many folks without even understanding coding are coding. Because even to code the right code, you have to study, you need to get those degrees, you need to go through the slogging process. It's not that just you pick up paper and pen and start coding and saying, hey, I just have so much money with me in terms of fiat currency that is going to solve the world problems. No, that is no way to solve the world problems. People have to study, people have to go through the process. I remember when I was in Milan, and the place I was staying, everybody, I mean, uh, the age group of that particular place where I was staying, it was anywhere between age 18 to 60 plus. And everybody was like, an Einstein or Newton of their own sort. They were reading, they were doing mathematical equations. And that is how people live, particularly in Europe. I've seen it, so I can talk about it. I don't talk about things which I haven't seen or been part of. So, in consensus, what is important is we need to develop those silos and controls, and those silos and controls should be replicated wherever it is. In terms of, first and foremost, the metro cities have to be in cognizance of technology. What is happening right now is there's technology deficiency, there's technology deficiency understanding, and that is with the best of the people who are the directors in respective consultancy companies. Their knowledge is negative, not even zero. They're just reading something and just picking out words and talking about it without even understanding what has happened given the reality parameters. It's very easy to talk in a aircon room about anything and everything. Go out and see, have a brisk walk in that weather, and then you realize that the nature has given its verdict. And I would say it's not that baby steps need to be taken. The gum. So earlier, obviously, this COVID situation, there was kind of a analysis which made that, okay, these many people go on road and that will stop. No, that doesn't stop the process. Um, what the data sets are saying is, and I'm talking about real data set, because a lot of synthetic data set has been developed by different operators, and particularly operators are not people who are operating from India. No, operators mean couple of enterprises who always are trying to push their mission forward. But the real mission right now is the survival. And when the survival mission comes into play, the stakeholders and the operators have to work together just for the survival mode. And right now we are at the survival mode. Thank you for watching out this, and thank you for pouring in so many messages. And yes, things are working out, that's for sure. It's just that the catapult has to be, I would say, multifold right now, so that sustainability has to be achieved in terms of the mindset first, and that is right now negative. And everybody's writing a book, so this is another you know haywire stuff which is happening, because if everybody is a writer, then who is going to be the reader? So thank you for watching this out, and have a great week ahead.